What is up, everybody? I'm Noah Krachivik, and welcome to another live stream from the Midwestern Marx Institute for Marxist Theory and Political Analysis. Tonight's going to be a good one. I'm really excited. For anyone who was, living in a cave somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, or maybe in an apocalypse bunker, January 6th was a big deal in this country. And as I grab my pen, because I know I'm going to be pointing at a lot of things tonight. No matter what your view on it was important. Something went down at the Capitol building, right? There was a Trump rally there, and it exploded into something else. People died, all kinds of stuff. And so the other day, I believe what was it called? Zero Hedge hosted a debate between two or three famous liberals and three famous conservatives, right? And they argued it out over whether the question of whether or not this was an insurrection. So we're going to watch that debate. We're going to see how they talk to each other. And we're going to figure out what the hell this thing actually was. And we're going to do it right after the international. All right, welcome back, everybody. Like I said in the little intro, I'm excited about this. I haven't watched this. I sort of skimmed through it while I was at work today, and just kind of trying to get my bearings, see what they were talking about. I'm going to make a couple predictions up top. I'm going to call it right now. Alex Jones is going to win the whole thing, right? He's going to talk over people. He's going to shout. He's going to congratulate himself on winning. Destiny's going to try to nitpick Destiny. We're going to call him Steven all night because I can't stand when people have those weird, like, video game things. No, we'll call him Steven. His name's Steven. I'm sure he won't mind. He's going to try to nitpick and force people into definitions and go completely trusting of every single thing the official narrative tells him. That's what he does. The Beattie guy, he's a little interesting. He runs Revolver. He's skeptical, but again, he's team conservative. And the Krasselsteen, sorry, they're sort of more other Stevens. That's basically all they are. So, yeah, you just got me tonight, so I apologize, because I'm not Eddie or Carlos. Yeah, that's about it. I say we get started unless anyone has any super chats or anything they want to throw my way, because like we tell you all the time, this is a completely people-funded institute. Every dime in our budget comes from y'all, comes from your super chats and your Patreon. Go to patreon.com/MidwesternMarx. All that good stuff. You already know it. So yeah, let's get started. I'm going to I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get right into it. All right. Sure. There we go. Y'all ready? I'm ready. I'm excited. Let's turn my volume all the way up. Should we watch it in like a higher speed? That's probably a good idea, huh? Let's go 1.5. We'll get used to it if that's too fast in the beginning, I promise. All right, let's do it, y'all. Is it really Krasselsteen? I thought it was Krasselsteen. I wrote their names wrong. Oops. Oh yeah, someone mentioned Glenn. I completely forgot Glenn Greenwald. I'm assuming that Glenn is going to be quiet and then sort of chime in with the real, like, hard-hitting, factual stuff. He's not going to offer opinions. He's not going to twist things. He's just going to tell it like it is. That's what Glenn Greenwald's always done. It's what he's famous for. It's why the left and right can't really figure him out because he's not interested in left or right. He's just interested in the truth. And I'm hearing you guys can't hear video volume. Okay, let's try to figure that one out. Stay with me here. I'm going to be trying to figure this out because that is not normal. I apologize, y'all. Nothing, nobody can hear this. Oh no, this is horrible. All right, let's try something different, huh? We are going right. No, Eddie is not here to fix my sound because I'm an old man who doesn't get this stuff. All right, we're gonna try something else, y'all. I'm gonna try something a little different. Bear with me. I apologize. I am very stupid, and yeah, that's about it. I'm just very stupid. All right, let's go here. We're gonna go. All right, all right, all right. Let's try it one more time. Bloop.
Democratic Party and its evil twin, the Republicans.
Got it?
They've lost power and populism is rising. Quite frankly, this was not an insurrection. It was insurrection that would have been guns. And it's in the Declaration of Independence that it's our right and duty to get rid of a government that's destructive of what the people want. But I'm not calling for violence. We're winning this politically, but we're being cast as about to be violent in the next 10 months because all these indictments and all these attacks to not let Americans vote for who they want aren't working and are backfiring. And all the big Democrat lawyers now admit it. Axelrod admits it. Carville admits it. They all admit this attempt
shall be incapable of holding.
Let's go back.
Well, I'm a journalist. I'm the host of System Update on Rumble. I had planned to be there in person. A little logistical problems intervened, and I wish I could be, but I'm really looking forward to participating. And I just want to echo Alex. I think what Zero Hedge is doing is so important, organizing these kind of substantive structured debates among people who obviously disagree pretty strongly on things, and yet nonetheless can have what I hope will be a civil and spirited debate, what I expect it will be. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I appreciate being asked.
Yes, that is my job, is to make sure that it maintains civility, structure, organization, and that we don't talk over each other, that we end up listening to each other. The real value of humanity, one of the most powerful tools we have is communication. So I think tonight's going to be an exemplary example of that. Let's go for this. The first question I got for you guys, and this is really for the entire panel and anyone that wants to start it off, maybe we can start with you, Ed, since just because you're on the end and we can move around, is January 6, 2021. Was it an insurrection? And before you answer, I want to read this. This is actually what it's called 18 U.S. Code 2383, rebellion or insurrection.
Yeah, let me do an overhead shot. This is right out of Cornell law here.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to start reading this. This is according to the U.S. Code. Whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, or both, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. It technically doesn't define insurrection. It's the code talking about what I guess what an insurrection is. Of course, they use the word insurrection in the actual code itself. But what do you think? Do you guys think it was an insurrection?
So I personally believe it was an insurrection. And I base that on the fact that 20 court decisions called it an insurrection. And the fact that there was a bill passed in the Senate that called them a mob of insurrectionists. I think the bill passed or it was in the House of Representatives, 406 to 21. That was a statute to award the police officers medals, and it referred to these individuals as insurrectionists. So, I mean, I think the term can be subjective. I think, you know, people can say nobody was charged with violating Section 2383 of Title 18, which is insurrection and rebellion statute. And nobody was, right? But I don't think that defines whether the event was an insurrection. When I say insurrection, I don't mean everybody there was partaking in insurrection. There are people who were peaceful. The people who walked into the Capitol and did nothing, I don't think that they were insurrectionists. I think they violated the law, but I don't think they were partaking in insurrection. I do think the Proud Boys were partaking in insurrection. I think you could say Donald Trump incited the insurrection. I do.
Destiny, what do you think, man?
I would say the plot from start to finish is quite obviously an insurrection. The only way to get around that is to either justify an insurrection, which is what most conservatives do, they don't realize it, or to deny that an insurrection could ever happen, or if you're not aware of all the facts of what happened. I think that Donald Trump and his cronies had a very coherent plan that they tried to enact from start to finish, starting with false claims of voter fraud, leading to false slates of electors that filed themselves as state electors under perjury, which is what they did, up to the violence that happened on the day of the certification of the vote, where Donald Trump and his friends continued to try to delay the peaceful transfer of power by contravening the certification of the Electoral College vote.
And what I want to make sure that we don't force this into like what they want to call a debate where you got to be wait to be called on or anything. So if any of you guys, Glenn,
I want to say something real quick. One of the things that drives me crazy about liberals is that they always go by the letter of the law. There's no common sense. They need some pedantic way of manipulating the government, right? Or government, the language. The government says this, so that. And then the problem is they use that language colloquially. So they'll say, yes, it was an insurrection, but that kind of thing. The interesting thing about how they view these laws is that a lot of it sort of implies intent, right? That you have to prove the inner state of someone's mind. And the question here that he brings up, does Donald Trump know he lost the election and then go to extra legal means to hold on to power, right? Even if he does that, it's not an insurrection, right? But it hinges on what if he genuinely thinks he lost or won, rather. What if he believes he is defending democracy, right? So to have the law be based in that is kind of silly, in my opinion. But let's see what the other side has to say.
Glenn, you as well, man. If any of you guys want to jump in.
Yeah, the two of them just went. I want Glenn to go, but I just want to say something here. I was there, and I was investigated and subpoenaed by the Justice Department in at least 5 criminal investigations, and I was forced to testify in front of the Jan 6 committee, which they've now been destroying their records because the records show the opposite of what they said. Trump and all of us had a stage rented by the Supreme Court. He was supposed to have another rally there. We showed up. Before Trump ever finished his speech, people were getting tear gas and hit by bullets, and there were a bunch of provocateurs leading and attacking against the police, and they broke through. And then this 1 million+ people then got blamed as insurrectionists, and Biden gave a big speech yesterday saying they're all terror.
All right. So right away, we see what Jones is going to go with. They're agent provocateurs, right? The people that actually began the violence. I don't know. I wasn't there, but it does track for anyone who's been at big demonstrations, like after George Floyd got murdered, right? I was at demos where there were definitely people acting as agent provocateurs trying to instigate violence. And then a whole host of veterans going, you're out of your mind. Don't do that. They're setting you up, right? There's famous videos. Like, don't take that white man's brick. That video, remember that one? It's a good video. But that's what they do. The establishment doesn't care about maintaining law and order. Let's make that clear. They want to use violence and political violence that they cause and sort of rope people into it all the time, and then use that as an excuse to crack down. So don't just dismiss Alex Jones out of hand here because he calls them provocateurs. That very well may be the case. And just because I've experienced it so many times, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. And that's not just because I've been told I sound like him.
So by that extension, Kamala Harris, as the VP candidate, was bailing people out of jail that burned down police stations and firebombed federal buildings. And the idea of Biden's speech yesterday, making his whole campaign about January 6th, saying political violence is never good. The Democrats are the ones that call for political violence. So I was there with a bullhorn, but I could only reach 100 yards out.
Hold on. The Democratic Party saying political violence is never good. Are you joking? What on earth could they possibly? The Democratic Party is the party of war for profit. I mean, the Republican Party too, don't get me wrong, but right now, the only voices calling to end the proxy war against Russia in the bourgeois political realm are in the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party. They're all on board using Nazis and all sorts of political violence to accomplish their economic ends. They destroyed Nord Stream, the most significant act of terrorism in history, period. Billions of dollars of German infrastructure, billions upon billions in trade destroyed for their political and economic ends. The idea that Biden gets to condemn political violence is absurd. Sorry, Alex Jones. Go on, brother.
When the tear gas was hitting me, saying, don't go in, don't fight the police. This is a setup. And we have hundreds of videos. And so regardless of what the left tries to do, they're all out there of people taking off their Antifa stuff and putting on the Trump garb and the police fake arresting people, attacking them.
I keep having to pause on Alex Jones, so I apologize. Has anyone seen these videos of people switching like their costumes? I guess they put on the Trump costume and then the Antifa costume. Has anyone actually seen those? I doubt he's referencing something fake, but they could be, very obviously like bad videos, right? I don't know. I don't know if I buy that one.
And then high-fiving them. I mean, this has all come out in the new footage, and it's all getting...
Wait, fake arresting them? How were they fake?
They would grab them and arrest them, and then drag them in, and then high-five them. Take the handcuffs off and high-five them. Those videos, what people are going to take everything I say, they're going to put it on X and show what I said. That's where we dominate.
Yeah.
And so what I'm getting at it. Let me tell you this. What I'm getting at here is they now admit hundreds of federal officers were there. So when Trump started his speech, this whole thing began with Ray Epps saying, go into the Capitol. He told the Jan 6 committee, yeah, it's true.
I'm seeing people are looking for these videos and not finding them. So, yeah, I'm a little skeptical myself. Thank you so much for VLX11387 saying strange bedfellows. Yeah, kind of strange, but these are strange times. They really, really are. We're getting to this point where people don't just want something different. We need something different. And so there's a lot of people that are just trying to get people to wake up in a certain way, that are finding themselves on the same side because everybody's saying, look, it's the establishment to blame. And they all think, the establishment is this or that. I'm sure, at some point tonight, Alex Jones is going to blame this all on communism, right? Which is absurd. But it's just because he doesn't understand what communism is. Substantively, he at least understands that the establishment is not to be trusted, right? And then the liberals here are all like, yep, We love the establishment. They'll protect us. We're fine. We're all, well off. We don't care. Unlike the majority of Americans who struggle paycheck to paycheck in this sort of deep decaying country of ours.
In his text messages, he told family, I orchestrated it. So under pressure, they finally indicted him, but only recommend 6 months. So a few hundred people got manipulated into fighting the police. They were led and driven by provocateurs and other groups. They were others. Then they opened the doors and the police wave them in hundreds of videos. They walk between the velvet ropes, and then they indict over 1,000 people that just walked through velvet ropes. And then now we're told in the National Security Directive of President Biden, the number one threat is the American people. And he had a declaration of war yesterday against all Trump supporters and says to protect democracy, we're not going to let you vote for Trump. So as Stalin said, I care not who casts the votes, I care who counts them. Well, Biden doesn't care.
Gotta stop you there, Alex. Stalin never said that. I have read just about everything J.B. Stalin has ever written. What I think he's confusing this with is a kind of an obscure and twisted quote from Lenin, who says that who matters to the bourgeoisie is not the voter, it's the vote counter. He's criticizing bourgeois democracy as not democracy, right? So, yeah, I would love to have a conversation with Alex Jones about Stalin, because here's the thing. He's going to talk about the mainstream media this, the mainstream media that, right? Where do you get your view of what communism is, what Stalin said, what Lenin said, etc., Alex? You get it from that mainstream media you already know that you can't trust. So why are you trusting them on this? That's crazy. Look into it yourself. That's all I ask. You'll see the same facts that every communist in the world has seen.
Care who casts the votes, he cares who's allowed on the ballot. So we've already won. No one's buying this. And when this happened 3 years ago, the Wall Street Journal had to print a retraction, but they said I was there as a coward telling people to attack. Well, no, they wouldn't let me put the video on Twitter where I was saying don't go in. But the truth is it's coming out. And so that's the bottom line here. And this attempt by Biden to cast the American people as the enemy in all these movies about martial law and civil war and race war, that's their own.
Now he's just kind of rambling.
Because the corrupt, evil Democratic Party and its evil twin, the Republicans, they've lost power and populism is rising. Quite frankly, this was not an insurrection. It was an insurrection that would have been guns. And it's in the Declaration of Independence that it's our right and duty to get rid of a government that's destructive of what the people want. But I'm not calling for violence. We're winning this politically, but we're being cast as about to be violent the next 10 months because all these indictments and all these attacks to not let Americans vote for who they want aren't working and are backfiring. And all the big Democrat lawyers now admit it. Axelrod admits it. Carville admits it. They all admit this attempt, like we're in Venezuela or something, to take Trump off the ballot when he's never been convicted of insurrection. This is a military tribunal U.S. code from the Civil War. If a military tribunal found you were guilty of being involved in insurrection, that meant after the war ended.
Can I ask you a question? Alex, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So do you think the Confederates during the Civil War were partaking in insurrection?
It's a weird question. No, they were seceding. That's a completely different thing than an insurrection, right? What Alex Jones is saying here is not wrong, okay? He's saying that the Democrats are corrupt and evil. The Republicans are corrupt and evil. I agree. I just, corrupt is a weird word. I think they just serve the ruling class, not the American people. And it does state in the Declaration of Independence that the American people have a duty to overthrow a tyrannical government, right? That's I'm sure Alex Jones does not understand just how radical a lot of Paine's and Jefferson's ideas were at the time, but that's what it states, and he's not wrong. He's also not wrong to say that the enemy for them is populism. Now, what is populism, right? It's a disorganized mass of pissed off regular people. If there isn't more fertile ground for a real communist movement and a real worker state to rise out of that, you're not going to have one. Okay? That's the type of people who get sort of pushed into that populist area right now are the people who were following the Bolsheviks, or maybe who were following the left SRs, right? And then ended up with the Bolsheviks because the Bolsheviks had it down. They knew what they were doing.
I mean, in retrospect, because I wasn't alive then, I think the South got manipulated into that. I thought there was real issues between the North and South. The abolitionists, had a good point, and slavery needed to end. But it was really about the North.
So just to be clear, the person that's defending the J6 rioters won't say that the Confederate States were engaged in insurrection.
Well, that's not what I see.
You see that sleaziness? This is why nobody likes liberals. Only liberals like liberals. Just to be clear, the person who blah, blah, blah won't say blah, blah, blah. The question was set up poorly. All right? I don't think anyone, even Alex Jones, isn't going to say the Civil War was a good thing, right? But it's just a fact it was not an insurrection. It was a secession, and there was an entire long war that ended in a revolution. It's so silly to try to trick someone with these baity kind of questions. Thank you, Marcus, for the £2.50. Keep fighting, he says. That's exactly what we're going to do, brother. Thank you.
So here's what happens.
Yes or no?
No. Hold on. That's not true.
That's what it sounded like you said.
No,
we can correct the record. So do you think they were engaged in insurrection?
I was trying to talk. And the thing I said was, I think the South was wrong. And then you just said that I support what the South did. No.
I didn't say you supported that. I said that you said that they weren't engaged in insurrection. Do you think the Confederate States were engaged in insurrection?
Was that because there were rebellions during Reconstruction at the end of the Civil War, and they were saying if you lead an uprising against the Northern occupation of the South, you're precluded from running from office because they were worried about Southerners getting office again, like Jefferson. No, I do not support the Civil War.
Wait a minute. All right. Alex is wrong about this. Reconstruction happens to be a thing I've studied quite a bit. And all of us have at the Institute, as we consider Du Bois, the guy who writes the book on it, the father of American Marxism. So what he's talking about is what we call the counter-revolution of property. As Reconstruction is going on, what Reconstruction is actually short for is the reconstruction of democracy. And our brother Denver here has it right. It was a dictatorship of the proletariat, run mostly by the Black Freedmen's Bureaus, right? That were created in order to give political advocacy to this new freed working class of free labor. And they have their own lands that they're, taking from the slavery. I don't want to get bogged down in a big thing, but this revolution that begins Reconstruction is then stopped by a coalition of Northern industrialists and what becomes Wall Street, actually funding the KKK with terrorism, who were engaged in insurrectionary measures. They were literally going and destroying freedmen's bureaus and farms, etc., etc. That is insurrection, not the secession of the traders, the Confederate States, right? It's basic like Wikipedia nonsense. Thinking you know what's up because you read a Wikipedia article is what these libs do.
Or slavery, and I'm not a quote Confederate.
Okay, but was it an insurrection?
My
question is, was it an insurrection? Yes or no?
Yes, if you were, no. The law, yes, I think that it was a civil war, and you could say an insurrection.
Okay, so is an insurrection, did anybody get charged with insurrection rebellion.
What I'm saying
With
is,
violating statute. Did anybody
you're
get
not
charged?
listening.
No, I'm asking you. You just said it was insurrection. Did anybody get charged with violating the insurrection and rebellion statute?
yes, people did. You have to
No,
charge
because there was no statute there. That's my point.
No, if
you
the
don't need to.
tribunal found
You
that
don't
you
need.
did.
You don't need to violate that statute in order to be partaking in insurrection, because the Civil War was an insurrection,
Okay, well, you
and
know-
nobody got charged with violating
you're not
that.
listening. This
No,
came-
that's
this
what I'm
came
Hey,
saying.
from
listen,
the
That's
one
my
of you.
point, Alex.
Reconstruction.
You're changing
There-
the subject because you know it's correct.
Even the Democratic Party lawyers on CNN say you have to be convicted under the 14th Amendment of this before you can be. You can't just
You don't get
because
convicted
a
under the 14th
congressional-
Amendment.
hold
You get
on.
convicted
A
under
congre-
Section
hold on. It's a lie.
2383 of
You hold
Title
the word down.
18.
Well, let's slow down a little. Let's slow down a little.
A congressional
Okay. Denver's got like just everything. You see Greenwald back there. He's looking at this going, Jesus Christ. But it's the same thing we're doing right now, right? He's like, people, Civil War, insurrection, you guys are being really dumb right now.
resolution to give awards to Capitol Police is not a conviction of Donald Trump to remove him from the ballot. He's been indicted for saying they stole an election. So now they want to take him off the ballot.
To
So
be
you
clear, he
can't
hasn't
vote
been
for him,
indicted
which
for
is
that.
pure stealing of an election.
I think
This is not.
But-
He's the Yankee. He's not somebody in Georgia. He's not Robert.
Wait a minute. Did he just say he was the Yankee Tanky? Whoa. That guy's hilarious. I don't know.
E. Lee. This has nothing to do with
I know,
it.
but
Also, as
my
a quick
point,
fact check, on the 14th Amendment, it doesn't require a conviction under Section
Yeah, I
3.
got-
You
I
can
got it.
literally put it on the text on the screen. There's
No.
it does not say needs to be
I
convicted.
guess we need to define
So
the
nobody
difference.
just-
Alex. One second. We need to define the difference between the casual term insurrection and the legal definition of insurrection.
yes.
Well, there's another thing we need to talk about. So, yes, there's the casual term. There's the etymology of the term insurrection, which simply suggests
Finally.
a rising up. So, by that definition, that could encompass a wide range of things.
Black Lives Matter.
Wait. So there's a rising up. Then there's the legal definition, but we have politically weaponized court systems. So that's not even, I think, a proper standard. I think the proper standard is the sweep of a proper historical perspective. Does the event of January 6th compare to the antecedent that we've been discussing, the Civil War? So if the question is, is Civil War an insurrection? My question is the scope and scale of the event of January 6th comparable to the Civil War? Because Joe Biden has directly made this comparison, which I think is flatly ridiculous. And that comparison has to be valid in order for these ridiculous Section 3 arguments to have any force or legitimacy. And I think any common
lie on
sense.
his face. It's a lie. I'm gonna shut up. It's a lie.
You know what? That's a really good point. If you're going to talk about the Civil War, if you call the Civil War an insurrection, okay, it's not. But whatever. That doesn't matter. You're trying to tell me that January 6th is similar to the Civil War. What? There's no world where you're sane in saying that. He was just trying to bait Alex Jones, and Alex Jones is like like he's always ready to go. So of course he took the bait.
Lie on its face. They say it's bigger than Pearl Harbor and 9/11. That is bull.
Okay, so here, let me finish what my point.
Yeah, do that, and then I want to go to Glenn for a
So
second.
my
after you do
point
that.
is that two things: the Civil War was an insurrection. I think it's hard to argue that. Nobody got charged with a crime of violating the insurrection and rebellion statute 2383. What about 1992, the LA riots? George Herbert Walker Bush, he invoked.
There's some questions in the chat about Darren Beattie. He runs Revolver. It's like a vaguely libertarian right wing, but I'd say principled libertarian news site. It's very rare to get principled libertarians, and you kind of take what you can get, if you know what I mean. They're all, working for some corporation, so their principles are, for sale. But out of all of them, Revolver, I mean, it is what it is. You want real independent journalism, go to the Gray Zone or something,
The Insurrection Act 12,000 people were arrested, 63 people were killed, hundreds were injured. Was that an insurrection? What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, it's a declaration of federal martial law.
But was it an insurrection? Because nobody there was charged with violating. Nobody there was charged with violating Section 2383, the insurrection and rebellion statute. But we still consider that an insurrection, right?
By that yardstick, Kamala Harris bailing out people that firebomb federal buildings.
That is
Glenn, talk to me. You have something to say.
Yeah, I actually think what Destiny and what Ed are saying are very important. First of all, I was going to say that I think one of the problems with how these things are debated is that a lot of people these days have very binary prisms for understanding things. A lot of it comes from YouTube debate where you have to declare yourself on one side or the other. So Destiny said, oh, everybody either hates this insurrection, thinks it's an insurrection, or they deny it happens, or they think it's good. And there's so much middle ground. Namely that for me, this was a political protest that spilled over into a riot where a small minority of the people engaged in violence. I don't think we want to urge that to happen. We don't want to defend that. I consider that lamentable. But the fact that it's laughable to call this an insurrection is actually demonstrated by the examples that they're using. This was a 3-hour riot that was extremely easily subdued. It doesn't remotely compare to any prior insurrections, let alone to the Civil War. The only people who were killed on January 6th were 4 people, all 4 of whom were Trump supporters, 2 of whom dropped dead of a heart attack and 1 from a speed overdose, because these were not exactly a well-trained militia. And when Jack Smith went to charge Donald Trump with multiple crimes, he had a lot of options to charge him with, and he charged him with a lot of crimes, including very dubious ones. He did not charge him with inciting an insurrection for reasons that I think we ought to ask ourselves why. But the fact that this is such a minor event in history is demonstrated by the fact that the media, who needed this to be a major event, immediately started lying about what happened, saying that Brian Sicknick was murdered when he had his head bashed in through a fight with a fire extinguisher, only to learn that actually he called his mother that night. He was fine. He died the next day of what the coroner said were natural causes, because the media knew that if you can't say that even one person supposedly perpetrating the insurrection killed anybody, pulled out a gun, let alone discharged the weapon, all of which is true, it's a joke to call this an insurrection. At best, it's a...
Okay. I want to stop it because it's kind of going into a few different places. I mean, were we wrong? Glenn Greenwald is telling it like it is. It is a joke to call January 6th an insurrection. Let's think about this. Our government has funded and organized real insurrections all over the world, right? What was the Orange Revolution in Poland? What was Pinochet? I mean, we could go down a list and we'd be here all night. If Trump really wanted to pull up an insurrection, there would have been paramilitaries there. There would have been real mercenaries. He would have been organizing military, rank and file military, getting as many officers as he could. They would have taken buildings, not just, had a few agent provocateurs and feds trying to get people to be violent. And then, cops like laughing and getting people inside the Capitol building, random weirdos with remember the shaman guy with the horns, people like that. That's a joke. That's not an insurrection. Okay. And if, because let's remember the FBI knew that something was going down. Capitol Police knew something was going down. They planned these demonstrations very, very publicly. If word got out with all of these federal informants talking to their handlers, if word had gotten to them that a real insurrection was going to be tried, they wouldn't have gotten anywhere near that. There would have been a bloodbath. It's insane to think that this, shaman guy and a bunch of older boomers wearing tactical gear is an insurrection. There are real militia people who are all about Trump. They would have been a perfect force, a grassroots force. But and someone Desert Manta says, but AOC was scared, remember? Do you remember that? She was crying about this recently. The other reality you have to live in to believe this was an insurrection is just ridiculous. Like, what world do you live in where nothing really violent ever happens? All these insurrections our government actually carries out. And I guarantee you, Stephen Destiny, will defend things like Pinochet because that's just what he does. Those are just fine, but this with the shaman guy and Alex Jones, and I'm sure he'll say this, saying don't be violent is an insurrection. Come on, man. Like people and anyone who's been involved in any kind of organizing will tell you this. The real veteran organizers, the people that have been at this, are always preaching against violence because we know how easily people's emotions get manipulated. We know agent provocateurs are out there giving kids rocks, saying, throw this. There's a cop, let's go get him. I've had people try to get me to fight cops. That's insane. You don't do that because they use it against you.
Riot. And that's the reason why Trump hasn't been charged with an insurrection. The only time he ever commented on January 6th about whether he thought there should be violence or not was when he said the following. He said, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. He urged them to be peaceful in how they went there. To the extent there was violence, I think you can make the argument that the FBI informants that even the New York Times admits were there were the ones that urged it. But even if the people who were there were the ones responsible, at best this is a riot. You could so easily make the case that the 2020 riots was a far greater insurrectionary threat than anything that happened on January 6th.
That's perfectly said. I would ask the left.
And I want to say again, there were agent provocateurs in the 2020 uprisings. These were the biggest uprisings in American history, remember. You bet your ass the establishment was there trying to push us into a position where they could blame violence on us and shut it down. That's what they do. And if you don't think that's what they do, if you just agree with everything the establishment is telling you, you live in a bubble.
Over here, I know Ian's asked the questions. I mean,
maybe Destiny should stop playing video games for a day or two and go outside.
Oh, did you guys see Biden's speech? I mean, it's an hour long that no one there was good. They were all there, over a million people. I was there. And then we marched down there to have another rally. And then I see this terrible thing happening. It was medieval. And then Biden saying they're all bad and we can't let you vote for Trump. I mean, come on, man.
We have a clip from Biden's speech I want to play. And then let's get back to.
I'm sorry, I gotta say something about this. I used to love Minor Threat, by the way. They were a great hardcore band back in the day. I like early punk hardcore a lot.
You, Destiny, you had something to say, but if you guys have this, it's clip number 4, Biden's speech. This is from yesterday's. It's only 50 seconds, but let's load this up. Not sure what
Trump's mob wasn't a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault. They were insurrectionists, not patriots. They weren't there to uphold the Constitution. They were there to destroy the Constitution. Trump won't do what an American president.
Okay. Let's set aside the fact that calling this an insurrection is silly, right? We all know that. Let's take that as a given the rest of the night. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going over it. He says they were not there to uphold the Constitution. They were there to destroy the Constitution. This is what liberals do. They pretend they read minds, and then the opposite of what people say is the truth. I don't care if they were right or wrong. They believed they were there to uphold democracy. Whether that was actually what they were doing is a completely separate question. They believed that the election was being stolen. They believed that they were there to do their patriotic duty and uphold democracy. Now, we know as Marxists that none of it is democracy. We know that only liberals can talk about democracy as such. A Marxist always asks, democracy for which class? At whose expense? That is what makes it real. That's what makes it a particular form of democracy. And bourgeois democracy, as it stands in the USA of 2023, is explicitly at the expense of the working classes, the proletariat and the reproletariat, even at the expense of the middle classes, even though the middle classes don't really care so much. I mean, some of them do. We could say there's maybe a democratic petty bourgeoisie and a democratic section of the PMC. Sure, I'll hear you out if you make that argument at me. But don't try to tell me these people weren't under the impression that they were saving democracy. They absolutely were. Absolutely were. They weren't, not in reality, but they thought so. And that's what matters for what he's saying. And Joe Biden knows this. His speechwriters know this.
Must do. He refuses to denounce political violence. So hear me clearly. I'll say what Donald Trump won't. Political violence is never, ever acceptable in the United States political system. Never, never, never.
Look at the Democrats.
It has no place in a democracy.
I'm sorry, you can't hear Joe Biden, of all people, say that and not laugh. How ridiculous is that? This dude never saw a war he didn't love.
Democracy, none. You can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. You know, Trump and his MAGA supporters not only embrace political violence, but they laugh about it.
The insurrection is the open border.
So the insurrection was not just the 3-hour riot that happened at the White House afterward.
All right, Alex, you had me on your side until you said the insurrection is the open border. Come on, man. There is not an open border. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these like no borders, no masters, no bedtimes anarchists, right? Not me. I'm a Marxist. I'm a communist. But the idea that there is an open border and there's a slow insurrection coming from it? Come on, man. Come on. Nobody's buying it.
Right, so I think that's the least charitable reading of everything that happened. And that's not, if you read any of the charges that either Jack Smith or the Georgia RICO case has alleged against Trump, are saying that, in fact, not much of the focus is on the 3-hour riot at all.
Hold on, Alex, let Stephen finish his thought first.
So not much of those indictments are actually focusing on the 3-hour riot itself. The unprecedented act that there is no answer for, that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton have not engaged in, is using knowingly false election claims for months to try to pressure state electors to change their vote. And then when they wouldn't do that, beg them to elect different electors. And then when they wouldn't do that, create a plot to create fake electors.
Wait a minute. Is Russiagate to start a campaign against the entire electoral college, calling it undemocratic because she won the popular vote? Seems like just a different form of the same thing to me. I don't want to say it.
Fake electors, and then when Pence wouldn't accept that, try to capitalize on that final 3-hour riot at the Capitol building to also make phone calls and tell people to decertify their vote or to switch their electors.
JFK and Obama had alternate electors.
JFK,
no, they didn't.
Yeah, this is true. Obama tried to do the same thing. It's legal, right? To try to get different electors in if you think that the ones there are compromised in some way. I don't know about JFK. I don't know about that, but I know for a fact Obama did. So here's the thing. What Trump was doing, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not a Trump guy, but it's insane to say he was like planning this elaborate insurrection with no military assistance, no real mercenaries to speak of, right? He was going through a legal process and he was probably misguided in this. Right? I don't think he actually won the election, but he thought he did. And he was using every legal means he could to try to hang on to it and try to overturn what he believed was a false result. That's not so out of the ordinary.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
I can explain that if you want.
Yeah, please do.
Right.
Yeah. So in 1960, I believe. So 1960, JFK and Nixon, there was a dispute because there was a recount. I think JFK ended up winning.
Yo, Tyrion is a much better name. Rondo just came up with his new nickname. It's Tyrion. That's what we're about to call him from now on.
By like 150 votes. At the time, each state decided decided to certify two sets of electors. Decided to choose two different slates of electors.
Depending on how it went.
But
they were
They were
certified
in
by
the
the
middle of a
states.
recount. They were in the middle of a
Well,
recount.
Trump tried to get it certified.
None were certified yet. Neither state was.
What happened with Trump was that Trump tried to get the states to certify a second slate of electors based off of conspiracy theory crap that
None of
the
the
election was stolen. Hold on.
They did.
He took it to
No,
court.
they didn't. They
62
refused to go to
cases.
court.
That's not
30
true.
cases were looked at.
Okay, here he's explaining what Trump did, right? That was legal. Now he says it's based on conspiracy theory crap, in his words, that, you know, the election was stolen. I forget exactly what the claims were. Probably something about illegal votes and immigrants or whatever, the typical thing that the Republicans and the MAGA movement was saying at the time. Now, here's the thing. There is a way to get rid of all doubt whatsoever that these elections are rigged in some way or anything like that. We developed an online voting system that tallies it in real time right away. There's a vote counter. You put yours in and it goes up one. You show people a completely transparent system. We could do that. We could even bring back paper ballots, right? Not counted by these computers. If I'm suspicious of anything, it is these computers that are made by private interests, right? That no one sees the code to, that only certain people can interact with. There's a reason that, by the way, we already have info that they're easily hackable. There's a reason neither the Democrats nor Republicans will call for actual election transparency. Both of them want to cheat.
On merit.
So are they
They're all
taking him off
shut
the
down.
ballot now?
That's a separate.
That's a separate.
Take him off the ballot. That's a separate.
Is the not purest form of election theft is taking someone off the ballot?
Alex,
Let's get back to the 1960s really fast. So what happened was that they did a recount and Kennedy ended up winning by, I think, 150 votes. And they chose the Kennedy electors. They certified the Kennedy electors and Kennedy ended up winning that state.
And that's what Trump said.
What Trump did was Trump tried to get the states to certify an alternate slate of electors. They refused because the court said there's no there there. And then when that didn't go through, Trump decided to get his own slate of electors above the states that were not certified and tried to use that to force Mike Pence to say that Joe Biden didn't win these electoral votes.
I just need to interject really quickly. So
Still legal means, by the way. I'm betting this Beattie guy is going to explain that. Again, wrong, but legal means not an insurrection.
if we want to be precise in terms of the scope of the debate, I think it's about January 6th. And so the lead up to it might be relevant to some of the criminal indictments, but it's technically speaking outside the scope of the January 6th discussion. But if we're gonna bring it into the discussion, I think there's an operative word there, knowingly. And that's operative within the context of the charging documents. But the idea that Trump thought that he lost the election and he was knowingly lying and knowingly engaging. No, he believes, I guarantee it.
I'm so sorry I keep pausing. But this is what I was saying right at the beginning. It hedges on knowingly. I genuinely believe Trump believed every single word he was saying. I really do. Just knowing what type of person Trump is, he believes in his own greatness, right? He believes in that. Most kids who grow up millionaires do. Just how it goes. So he believed, and because his opponent was so unpopular, believed that there was no way he could have lost it. And so he went to great lengths to try to save it for himself. Legally. He was wrong, but he thought he was right. It's a big difference from lying. And even if he was, how do you prove that? You can't.
Whether you believe it or not, Trump believes that the election was stolen, and he was using the legal recourses available to him at the advice of his legal advisors.
That is not true. Most of his legal advisors said that this idea was crazy.
Well, no, but he had legal advisors.
Okay, here, this is what Destiny does. Most of his legal advisors did advise him against it, right? They did. Not all of them, though. And Trump is a guy who is not always taking advice from his advisors. He's not always doing what his constituency, or he doesn't have a constituency, but what the people want, right? He is a genuine wild card. He follows his own sort of compass, right? Wherever it takes him, he's following that. So it doesn't matter how many legal advisors told him not to do it. If one said to do it, that's who he's going to go with, because that's what agrees with his gut. And well, I think let's not be mean to Tyrion here, but he is very angry. Maybe it's the hair, but yeah. Oh, he's also very short from what I hear. I don't know. I'm not a tall guy, but yeah.
If you search hard enough, you can find anybody to validate an opinion. But what you've just done is what I opened with, which is saying he thought the election was stolen, therefore he was justified to engage in insurrection.
Is it right to take him off the ballot? Since you don't want to
Not what he said at all. The letter of the law has to prove intent. That's what Destiny here went with. That's what Tyrion talks about. And so it's not justification. It's the legal, fulfilling the legal framework, right? Even though we shouldn't even get there, because it is very silly to think this was an insurrection. Insurrections are not these things. We could call it a riot, sure. A particularly bad one, right? But not an insurrection.
January 6th.
That's for the Supreme Court to decide. That's for the Supreme Court to decide. I'm telling you, that's for the Supreme Court to decide. According to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment,
why does the United States sanction countries that take people off the ballot?
What? That's not even remotely relevant here.
Oh, okay, all right. So
you know,
maybe he's a wizard, y'all.
You know what the United States usually.
Wait, here we have.
If we do want insurrection, you'd know it.
I'm sorry, I told Carlos to stop with the wizard nonsense. You guys have no idea, like, what I do to amuse myself. like talking about wizards and like acting like I'm very afraid of wizards was like, I thought it was the most hilarious thing in the world for like 2 weeks. I was doing that at work. Lately, what I've been doing at work with a buddy of mine, Kevin, is just putting random anarchist slogans into whatever we're saying, right? Like, hey man, can you go grab me some of that crown molding? No gods, no bedtimes. We got to stay upstairs today because we got the builders downstairs. Eternal justice, no borders. Stuff like that. I don't know why, but yeah. I promised Carlos I would.
Let's probably be for things like circumventing the vote, like asking the vice president, for instance, to unilaterally win the election.
So
that would be something that we might sanction another country
vote for somebody because they make up a bunch of stuff and he's not found guilty anywhere, but you guys just parrot it over. You're like,
if you don't like the Constitution, that's your fault, Alex. If you don't like the Constitution, that's on you. Really? Then why are you saying that Section 3 of Amendment 14 requires a conviction? Alex, why did you say that Section 3 of Amendment 14 requires a conviction? Can we put the text on stream?
I would love to do that, actually.
Put the text on. Because you keep saying.
All right, guys.
Military tribunals.
I don't care what
they would have to find you guilty.
Let's.
That's why no one won.
We'll
slow down. This is a great conversation. Glenn's about to drop some knowledge.
I'm dominating.
Yeah.
So, talking a lot.
Glenn's in remote from Brazil. So, Glenn, anytime you have something to say.
Yes! Alex Jones, I'm dominating. Yes, you are, Alex Jones. Yes, you are. But that is not a hard thing to do. Let's be real. This guy calls himself Destiny. Just want to throw that out there.
It's helpful for me if I see a visual cue, maybe your hand goes up. I can tell you have something you're going to say now, but let us know.
Let me just say, what happens is when you gather together to debate a particular question, you're supposed to debate that particular question. The particular question that we were presented with is we're going to debate January 6th and whether it was an insurrection. Now, I don't blame Destiny and Ed for not wanting to debate that, for wanting to debate a whole set of other issues about whether Trump acted improperly, whether he was naughty and the things he did after the election, because there is no argument to make that what happened on January 6th rises to the level of insurrection. And that's why an extremely aggressive prosecutor named Jack Smith decided not to charge Donald Trump with that crime, because he knew there was no way that he could possibly bring a conviction against anybody, let alone Donald Trump, who told everybody to be peaceful when going to the Capitol, about whether or not that was actually an insurrection, whether that rose to that level. And even in a colloquial sense, what we called an insurrection in the past is in a completely different universe. But on the issue of whether there was a real belief on the part of Donald Trump that elections were stolen, I don't understand how anybody could doubt that, aside from the fact that you have to get into Trump's head. In the last 3 elections that Democrats lost, in 2000, 2004, and 2016, a very large number of Democrats believed and asserted that the election was stolen and was the byproduct of fraud, and the president was, as a result, illegitimate. When I started writing about politics in 2005,
let's remember how many millions and millions and millions of dollars went in to the entire Russiagate nonsense. It was nonsense. There was nothing there. Nothing whatsoever. It was the Democratic Party coping with the fact that they lost to a reality TV clown. We couldn't possibly have lost this candidate everyone's just going to love, Hillary Clinton. So of course Russia must have been to blame. That's absurd. Absurd. They poured millions into that.
The idea that George Bush was the real loser of the election, Al Gore won, was the view of every single liberal and Democrat that I knew. In 2004, there were objections claiming that Karl Rove had interfered in the Ohio vote with the Diebold machines and cheated to make John Kerry lose and George Bush win. And then in 2016, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats said that Donald Trump was the illegitimate winner, that Russia had helped him, and they tried to convince the Electoral College to abandon the certified results of the state. Obviously, you go back to 1960, and a lot of historians believe that election was stolen. So it's not like Donald Trump was the first person to ever wonder or believe that an election was stolen from him. It's a very significant tradition in American political history, if you know anything about politics before 2016. And if Trump believed...
One of the first elections that I remember caring about, because I haven't really, grow up a communist. You don't really take... Anyway, Al Gore lost. Big time. Everyone said it got stolen from him. Did it? People still think that. People still think Bush stole that election. There was a whole thing, stop the vote or stop the count, start the count, stop the count, start the count. I mean, he's not wrong when our brother Kyle here says, if you know anything about politics before 2016, which is what Glenn is saying here, which Destiny does not even slightly. So Glenn is killing. He's stealing the show.
Believed that the election was stolen, and while it's true, a lot of people in the Justice Department and a lot of people in the White House told him they didn't think it was. He did have advisors and lawyers telling him that they think there was evidence of it. Then the question is over, even on these other issues about whether or not Trump engaged in some conspiracy against the United States. But the issue is January 6th an insurrection?
Well, that's right. But I mean, Glenn, since let's Destiny, and these guys haven't talked to leaders, Professor B. Hillary was in videos 2 days ago saying Trump's going to steal this election. So why are they allowed to say it? It's free speech. You don't get indicted for it.
Trump didn't get indicted for that.
Oh my God. They indicted him and they put it in the charging thing in Georgia saying he has the election. You're hoping people don't read the documents.
You can go read it. It's a RICO case. There's a bunch of behavior that is within a RICO case.
Oh my God.
It's self-illegal. That's the point of a RICO case.
Yeah, right.
Can I talk about different?
You see what Destiny just did there? It's not in there. Oh, well, it's in there, but it's just part of a RICO case. There's a law. That, my friends, is a lie. Crazy that he's like, people say Alex Jones is known for making up wild theories and lying. When he said he was dominating, he wasn't lying. The liberal team here is just doing so poorly. And I haven't seen him he said some silly stuff, but not that much. I mean, let's be real.
So Bush versus Gore, what happens? The Supreme Court ruled and Gore conceded. He stopped saying this election was stolen. He stopped saying I won.
That was Supreme Court.
Yes.
Did Gore refuse to certify the vote? I don't remember. Did he do that?
The vote was certified.
He didn't have an alternate slate of electors?
Exactly.
Okay.
So
after Trump wanted a Supreme Court hearing. Trump wanted the same thing.
62 cases were brought before judges. And you said earlier, none of them are based on evidence. 6 of them were based on standing. 6.
out of the 62.
They wouldn't even hear it. I
Do you
saw
know
it.
how many of them were Trump-appointed judges that made those rulings? 17.
So six of them. Let me finish here. 6 of them.
Making a prediction. The general MAGA narrative goes that most of Trump's appointments were forced on him by neocons. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not in his head. I could see it being true. I could also see it being BS. I could also see it being a case of it doesn't even matter. Someone isn't just like appointed by Trump, so doing Trump bidding, right? They're there as a judge, basically to rule things in favor of the ruling class, the bourgeoisie, blah, 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 uphold bourgeois law, etc., etc. The two don't connect.
Were based on standing. 4 of those that were based on standing, the judge also analyzed the merit.
And by the way, can I just say when liberals start talking like this, I want to go to sleep every time. But you know, the judge is based on standing.
And said there was no evidence or insufficient evidence. So only 2 of them, and that was Texas versus Pennsylvania and Gohmert versus Pence. Do you know what those 2 cases were?
No,
Texas
I know what the cases are.
Texas tried suing.
No, I agree with you. Biden says inflation's fine right now. I agree with him.
Let me finish. Texas tried suing Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, several other states, saying that the election was stolen. And the judge said, no, Texas can't sue these other states. Somebody in that state who was affected had to sue them. Now, the other case was Gohmert versus Pence. He challenged the Electoral Counts Act of 1807, saying that Pence could overturn the election. He said that Pence,
I think that's wrong. I agree with you. I think that was a wrong.
So those are the only 2 that were.
No, I agree with you on that. So, but what I'm saying is, then if Biden's going to,
I don't think Destiny is Tyrion Lannister. He's Joffrey Lannister. That's who he is.
win so big, why can't Trump be on the ballot?
That's not up for Biden to decide. That's up for the Supreme Court.
Biden said he wants him off the ballot.
It doesn't matter what Biden says.
Oh,
Biden's not the one who decides that.
Trump lost. That's why he can't have his race car on the track. Yeah, this horse is going to lose, so it can't be in the race. Bull crap.
Who do you think has the authority then to determine the interpretation of Amendment 14?
Man, I know the State Department.
Why can't you answer a single question? Why not just answer one question?
You know who it should be? The American people. We should be able to choose who our president is. And it shouldn't be based on which corporations want to give money to which person. It should be based on who we choose. We have the technology now to circumvent all that nonsense. All that nonsense. We could do round robin voting all the way up, just do debates. You could outlaw commercials and all of that. Get rid of all of it. Get some actual democracy. But which party is going to bring that up? None of them, right? Because they're not interested in democracy. They're interested in certain ruling class interests. Trump is not liked by the establishment, not because he's anti-establishment, but because he's a wild card. He's not in their pocket. They can't handle anyone who's not in their pocket, let alone someone who's actually principled against them. Now,
asking a simple question: who has the authority ultimately to decide?
The president
has
has
the authority to decide
CNN,
matters of constitution.
Let me talk.
Because he won't answer the question.
The president has not been
He's going to ramble. He's not going to
even on CNN, the legal analysts say that you have to be convicted. So, Destiny, you can sit there and have blue hair and be trending and make all these, like, the moon is made of cheese. I'm Destiny. Every American knows you don't lose your rights when you're not convicted. He's not been convicted. And here's the good news. It's backfiring. People, we have the Declaration of Independence, and we can vote for who we want to.
No, you can't.
Well, you can't vote for
citizens.
But
can you?
Nobody stole an election.
Can you vote for
vote for who you want. Nobody stole an election, but you can't vote for who you want.
I think
Nobody stole an election, but you can't vote for who you want.
We just beat this into the ground. Alex, I need you. We just crushed this one into the ground, but I want to ask the question in a slightly different way. Was this an attempted coup? Do you guys think this was an attempted coup?
Of course it was. Obviously it was.
The Hunter Biden laptop,
oh my God.
weaponization hearings,
emails,
the censorship,
Russia,
there's no Russian connection. That's all.
mRNA vaccines.
Take your extra. I want you to take all the shots.
Global warming.
How many shots have you had?
None yet. You want to take some?
No, I hope you take them all.
Answer one.
Yo, straight up, I want to do one of these and be next to him and have him talk to me like that all the respect in the world to Alex Jones right now, because I would have knocked him out right there. You don't disrespect him. Like, he's doing this because he knows he's safe, right? And like, look, let's be real. I'm not like an Alex Jones fan. I got no dog in this race whatsoever. But Alex Jones would murder this kid. For pretend, right? Like, metaphorically, I mean, not actually. He would beat him senseless. If sorry, like, just that like mockery from someone who sits and plays video games that thinks like reading Wikipedia is intelligence. I would have taken him by that hair, slammed his face on the desk, and they would have had to pull me off of him. Because that's ridiculous. You don't do that. You just don't. You can tell this is the kind of kid that never got beaten up when he was younger, right? He had money or whatever it was, just got out of it always. And so he never learned that lesson that there's lines a man just don't cross. And he just does it because he thinks he's funny. Dare him to try that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be like Mr. Tough Guy or nothing, but what I really wanted to say was that props to Alex Jones for not doing that.
Question about any.
I want to see you take them all.
I
and
been
enjoy
talking about
yourself.
the Democrats more
And
than the
maybe on your
Republicans
deathbed,
on the January 6th debate. Isn't that wild?
Wait.
Isn't that crazy?
They now admit that the
Was
shot erases your immune
Yeah,
system.
we call
It
it
doesn't protect you. So you
smothering.
do that little one-liner there.
Are you talking about
Democrats
COVID now?
Democrats
Are you
trying to
talking
take
about
away my
COVID now or
Democrat.
Yeah, let's stay back. All right, guys, back to topic.
Can I ask a question?
But Brian has an answer.
So
about-
is it a coup? That's the question.
Yeah, that's
so. I think it can be debated.
Or an
that
attempted
was a
coup, an attempted
definitely, I would say it's an attempted coup. And a federal
The coup is flooding the border with
How
aliens.
it's told.
district judge, U.S. district judge,
Great.
Want to answer a quick question? Nothing against video games whatsoever. I don't want to. I actually play video games with my son. What I mean is that this is what Destiny does instead of work. He's never worked a real job to my knowledge. He just plays video games. Like, that's it. That's who he is. There's people who play video games and then there's gamers. You know what I mean? It's a different sort of thing.
David Carter actually evaluated the Trump Eastman scheme. And he said,
All right, we got some big
Well-
news. I'm not interrupting you.
No.
After.
Not that yet. But we had Glenn. Glenn's going to speak after you were.
I'm sorry. I'll shut him
It's
down.
the worst.
so the federal judge, U.S. District Judge David Carter, evaluated the Trump Eastman scheme.
Another lawyer.
Which we can go into later. But basically, he said that it was quote a coup in search of a legal theory. This is a federal judge. So a judge.
We have a
said-
CIA coup over America.
Good follow-up question. See, here's the problem with these. America is a country of over 300 million people. Sure, some people can do that, but here's the kicker. They need to already be a well-off, upper middle class type kid that can devote the time to trying to do that for a living. So nobody from the working class could even begin thinking of that as realistic. So it's not a question of if you could play video games for a living, would you? It's a question of why do these pampered rich kids not have to get a job like the rest of us? Not saying like playing video games is bad or if it's like something, but that's not all he does, right? He reads Wikipedia, blah, blah. It's a long thing. But no, I don't respect that. I don't.
Hey, the CIA kill Kennedy?
Judges aren't part of the CIA.
Oh, my
Are
God.
they? I don't think so.
Is
Glenn-
that something? Is that a new theory of yours?
No, it's not a new theory of mine. No, the whole thing is a big rotten. So they can find partisan. They found the Secretary of State of Maine took Trump off the ballot because she had one hearing in a YouTube video. Are we ruled by this lady? Can we not vote for who we want?
So one of the I guess defenses against it being a coup.
Oh wait, here we got Glenn. Glenn speaking. Go for it, man.
I just want, so it's just about I actually want to ask a question that I would love to hear everybody's answer to. But before I do that, just want to say about federal judges. This year, in the last 6 months, 4 different federal judges, a district court judge, and then an appellate court unanimously found that the Biden administration gravely violated the First Amendment. In fact, the greatest assault on free speech the court said, in decades. Maybe the history of the judiciary by systemically pressuring big tech to censor the internet and purge it of all dissent by threatening big tech companies using the CIA, the FBI, and the CDC with punishment if they didn't censor the internet. Now, you may not agree, but according to your standard, 4 different federal judges concluded that, which is infinitely worse in terms of an abridgment of freedom or an attack on the Constitution than anything that Trump is accused of doing.
That's
but in
not
terms
true.
of whether
That's a digital insurrection by the deep state. Digital insurrection.
Can I put a pin
All right,
in real quick? I just want it to be noted.
Hold up, everybody, hold up.
This is really important, the point that Glenn is making. Glenn is by far the sharpest guy here, by far. Love Glenn Greenwald. There's a reason that Snowden picked him to help him expose national surveillance, right? Anyway, the reason that his point is important is because these giant corporations, right, work hand in glove with the federal government in order to keep the status quo. And what is the status quo for all of us? Not very good, is it? Right? Most Americans struggle paycheck to paycheck, despite what, the weird middle class kids will tell you that can't see out. So when they control what we see as reality and get to silence some views, push others down into corners and make people, basically unable to find them, and then shine a spotlight on others, they control how people see everything. And all of the assumptions that your decision making relies upon is based on what they want you to see. And that, my friends, is not a coup, but we've already been couped a long, long time ago, right? And they're just maintaining power now.
Glenn, please finish your point, and then we're going to move on to the response.
The question I want to ask is, the question that you asked, Ian, is this a coup? If you look at how other coups are perpetrated, and I think a lot of this is that if you're an American and you have this very soft history, you don't know what a coup is, you think that like what CNN tells you a coup is a coup. Usually the way coups work is the leader of the country, or whoever is in charge of the military, orders the military to seize control of the levers of power. Trump was the commander-in-chief on January 6th. The military was duty-bound to obey his orders. They had a right to disobey if they were illegal, but if this were a coup, why didn't Trump order the military to seize control of the power and turn over the election process to him? Why didn't he order the armed factions that form the law enforcement part of the military and the executive branch that serve under his command to do that as well? That's what happens in a coup. That didn't happen here because Trump wasn't trying to perpetrate a coup.
He wanted the Department of Defense to seize voting machines, and the DOJ turned him down and told him.
The worst thing he did was try to take Biden off the ballot. Remember when Trump said Biden cannot run and have the Justice Department take Biden off the ballot? Oh, God, that was Biden. Sorry.
Alex Jones just got me with that one. I didn't see it. I really didn't. All right, no, it's important that what Glenn Greenwald's making a great point. Why didn't Trump order the military to begin seizing government buildings? Because it wasn't a coup. And then this Krasselsteen guy says, well, he tried to look at voting machines. That's not the same thing, Krasselsteen. It's not. Come on, man.
I'm sorry.
To reiterate, also, Biden doesn't have the authority to do that. He still doesn't have
Only
the
his Lord
authority
and
to do
Savior
that.
Jack Smith.
The Supreme Court that Trump has his picks on, that's currently 6-3 conservative, they're the ones who are going to make the final decision on that. I wanted to be known that every single time you try to talk about any of the stuff related to Trump, it's so many Democrat names that comes out of people's mouths. I don't know why people can't just engage on the facts of what happened on and in the events leading up to the insurrection without having to invoke every other Democratic leader's name.
No name calling.
No, his name's Ding Dong. Ding Dong.
Yo, somewhat inside joke. Carlos, Eddie, and I call each other Ding Dong. Like that's like our thing. So for him to call him Ding Dong is just even funnier for me. God damn, I love Alex Jones, man. Oh.
Whatever it is. The point is, I was there There was over a million people, and they said police were attacking. We got there like shooting tear gas, and then a bunch of feds helped break through with some idiots that got mad, had a brawl. And then the cops go, "Come on in, everybody, come on in."
So Alex,
so there's everybody sees those videos now.
Okay, so,
you call this the new Pearl Harbor, worse than 9/11. 3,000 people. Do you disagree? Let me ask you this: do you disagree with them claiming this was worse than Pearl Harbor or 9/11?
I think it depends how you ask that question. I would say no, it's not worse than Pearl Harbor or 9/11.
What are you basing on it? Are you basing?
No. I get it.
The pedantry of liberals. It's a very simple thing. Is it worse than 9/11 or Pearl Harbor? No. No, there's no world where January 6th was worse than Pearl Harbor or 9/11. Are you insane? Don't get me wrong. People died on January 6th, and that is messed up. The entire riot should not have happened. But to call it worse, like, what world, what pampered little bubble have you lived in your whole life where whatever narrative the establishment tells you, you're like, yes, sir, Mr. Establishment, sir. How much water you want me to carry for you today? You know what I mean? That's crazy. It's just crazy.
No. Trying to take people's votes away is sacrosanct, but you're trying to take people's votes away.
Having declared it unprecedented that a president of the United States would do everything within his power to prevent the peaceful transfer of power to the next president.
He said, I want you to peacefully march down to the Capitol.
That is a uniquely horrible event.
So
the march to the Capitol.
Oh my God. We've already established in this debate that the last few presidents did the same thing, did everything within their legal power to prevent that transfer of power or to prevent an election result. The escalation here is that there weren't bad riots where people died in the other ones, right? So it's not exactly unprecedented. It's not as bad as Pearl Harbor. How this kid, sorry, he's not a kid. How this guy says that with a straight face is insane to me. Good question. Yes. A few of, I think there was it 4 or 6 people who died? One of them was shot by a cop. But there was like a heart attack, and then someone was on meth or something. The rest was like unrelated. So yeah, people did die there, and there were tragedies, but it's a whole nother bag of bananas. Not important.
What was bad was him watching the riot happen for 3 hours and doing nothing.
No, it took him. It was the riot was happening. He spoke for an hour and a half. It started then. Then he got back to the White House, watched it like 30, 40 minutes, and then shot a video.
No, you're lying. He got back to the White House. He got Mark Meadows delivered a note on his desk that Ashley Babbitt had been shot, and he sat there sipping Diet Coke for an hour and a half. The guy that you called your leader.
The way they run
how many pardons did Trump do for the Patriots that got unfairly charged with crimes?
Listen, I was there.
Why didn't Donald Trump pardon any of those people? Why didn't Donald Trump
pardon any of those people?
There's not going to be an answer to this. Because there's not.
Use your false timelines. They claimed in their timelines he spoke for almost an hour and a half.
Just keep it one at a time. It's
Capitol when he first started speaking. So you had an hour and a half on it didn't exist. I was there.
So you were there, Alex. So tell me, were there weapons there?
No, nobody used weapons.
So are you telling me?
Yes, there were weapons. You're right. You got me.
He's going to say the cops.
Yeah, they shot Ashley Babbitt and they threw people off the balcony and they beat a woman's brains out. You're right.
There were 75.
Oh no, nobody shot a woman. Nobody beat a woman.
Nobody beat a woman on the ground. That's a fake video that got put out. That wasn't
Ashley
real.
Babbitt's fake, folks.
It was
wow.
I like how you would think that years after the event, we're now getting unreleased footage.
There's
like
video
1,000
of them
people
dragging
that woman. That event
the
for 5
police
different
dragged her in
without her getting beat by a baton. How would that take years to report?
Oh my God! Everybody on X. Him saying they didn't beat a woman to death.
Everybody watching.
Yeah, let's.
You just screwed yourself.
All right.
I asked you about that.
Got your ass. Woo!
All right, Alex,
got his ass now.
Once you're done celebrating,
Ashley Babbitt, nobody died. Old woman didn't get drugged in by the cops and beat by batons.
This is an Eagles-Cowboys game. What is that?
If he wants to do little one-ups and just
what Trump fans are.
Hope the audience only goes off how much emotion there is. I can top you. I can top you.
Buddy, calm down.
I'm sorry. First of all, I have seen video of that day with cops beating an older woman. I didn't know she died. I don't think she did. But that was quite a performance. Thank you to Red Mouse for the $10, who says there are other types of coups, not just military. Iran Khan and Pedro Castillo are recent examples. Military was not used, but U.S. was 100% behind the scenes. Lawfare, precisely. Lawfare is what they're trying to use against Trump right now. And don't think for a second they don't do that with us. They do. Here's the thing. There is a similarity between us and MAGA people. I don't care if you don't want to see it or you don't want to hear it, there is. Here it is. They care. We care. They know something's messed up. We know something's messed up. They want to change things. We want to change things. The difference is understanding what is actually messed up and how to fix it, right? There's a reason the establishment considers both of us enemies, and frankly, they are better organized, better funded, and more prepared than us right now. That's just the fact, right? Thank you, Red Minds, by the way. I want to say, before we move on, we are, as you guys know, a people-funded institute, right? Every dime in our budget comes from you guys, from your super chats, from your Patreon, all of that. So if you can, go to patreon.com/MidwesternMarks. You can sign up for, I think the minimum is just $1. I don't know. I don't even go on there. But when you do, you get access to our Discord server forever. You'll be able to use that to get sort of a preferred call-in for my call-in show that's beginning real soon, Real Talk. All kinds of stuff. There's a certain level where you'll get free copy of Carlos's book, The Purity Fetish and the Crisis of Western Marxism, which in my opinion is the most important book of our era right now. I had the immense honor of being able to edit it, and it explains the ideological problems of what we often call the fake left, or what, the conservatives in this debate would just call leftists, right? Explains it perfectly. And it doesn't just do that, it gives solutions. Fantastic book. My reproletarianization pamphlet is coming out very, very soon, and you'll have access to that. Lots of good stuff. So check that out. And thank you all for all your support. It means the world to us. It really, really, really does. All right. So what are we thinking, y'all? This is getting a little repetitive to me. We've been at this for an hour and a half now. And we're 41 minutes in, and already they're going. I want to go a little bit longer with you guys, but it's starting to get kind of, Anyway, let's get to it.
Here we go.
Okay. So you said the weapons were the Fed shooting Ashley Babbitt. What about, how about the 3 men on the corner of 14th and Independence who had AR-15s? How about...
Oh, they use those?
They didn't use them, but
what about the pipe bomb?
I asked you a question,
Who's that?
Alex. I asked you a question if people had weapons. How about how many weapons were seized? Like,
hey, I got
75 people arrested.
I'm raping people.
75 of the people arrested.
Okay, with this, I get what Alex Jones is saying, but I don't know if he's right on here. Having weapons is a big deal. It is. When you're at something like that, it's a big deal. And you should be serious about it. Don't make it into a non-issue. It's not a non-issue. It in no way means it was an insurrection, but it is not a non-issue. I've seen absurd stuff with ultra LARPies, sort of, the ones that carry pictures of Mao with them everywhere, which is absurd. You're an American. What are you doing? But they would say they're providing security for a protest that needs no security. And they all got their, their assault rifles with them, and they're worn slightly incorrectly and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of ridiculous. Kyle Pettis, thank you for the $10, brother. He says, MAGA and us communists have something in common. Sounds like fertile ground for organizing. Maybe we need a slogan, something like MAGA communism. It is. I will say this. It is fertile ground for organizing. MAGA people, Trump people are the easiest people to play. They are. All you got to do is explain that the things they already want, which is really a dictatorship of the proletariat, let's be real, that's what socialism is. And then from there, it's just about pragmatically solving real problems rather than being attached to dogmas. Because here's the thing. They are told that we communists are attached to dogmas because of all those fake leftists, because of those LARPy Maoists, right? People like that. But the truth is, Marxism is nothing of the sort, right? Like, look at communist China. It has none of those dogmas at all. Anyway, and so when you explain, really, American communism is just the acknowledgement that what we had did not create that government of, by, and for the people, right? It did not create a land with liberty and justice for all. And there's a reason for that, so let's look into it, right? They already know the enemy is the establishment. Explain how. Material, right? And explain that it's the working class that needs to lead and our interests that need to be put first rather than Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or whoever, right? And they get on board right away. I get these people on board all the time. And the only reason that people are hesitant when you call yourself a communist is because you dismiss them. Don't. That's all I'm saying. Dismiss no one. Get everyone. It's possible. People are ready. This is an objectively revolutionary epoch we're in, people. Reproletarianization changes everything. It's not just relying on a democratic petty bourgeoisie anymore, right? And a fading proletariat. The proletariat's coming back hard, right? And the reproletariat has nothing to lose but their chains either. We have allies everywhere. We just got to organize it.
Within the Capitol building had weapons.
Let's we have a couple of clips.
Knives and stuff. Oh, the knaves have weapons and disarm them immediately.
How about Guy Reffitt? What is he, 3%er or 3%?
Does he have nuclear weapons like Biden?
He had a handgun on the stairs of the Capitol.
He had a handgun.
As he was encouraging people to.
That's worse than Pearl Harbor.
As he was saying, telling people to go into the Capitol, as he was saying he wants to drag Nancy Pelosi out of the Capitol and hopes her head hits every stair on the way out.
Did he say go into the Capitol like ramps?
Just finish my point before you cut me off. He wanted to drag Nancy Pelosi out and let her head hit every stair on the way out. He said,
yeah, and a guy pooped on Pelosi.
Finish, Alex.
So we don't blame him.
Yeah, let Ed finish this point because we're going to go to Darren really quick.
He said on his way to the Capitol building that they're going to take the Capitol and insert their own government.
Yeah, so
and he had a handgun on the steps of the Capitol.
Were there, and you call it like Martians invading and blowing the earth up, like Glenn Greenwald said.
His intention wasn't an insurrection.
Yeah.
Are you saying his intention wasn't an insurrection? He's saying he's going to drag Nancy Pelosi out. He's saying,
and he wasn't under Trump's command.
Right.
Trump said go peacefully.
Trump said go peacefully.
Yes, you can finish your point, and then we're going to go to Darren.
Okay, I'm getting really sick of this. I'm not going to lie. They're going into weird, dumb areas that no one really cares about. I do want to answer a few questions from you guys because I think they're good ones. Hand Signals for the Blind says, bro, good luck with Marxism in the USA is the only thing on the left is the tedious bores of agenda issues and Antifa that stands up for injustice but has no political philosophy that pertains to class issues. This was true. Although I would quibble a little about Antifa, as this is disjointed anarchists who hate organization anyway, for the most part, and went around just calling people fascists who weren't. But I mean, the liberals, the conservatives, they all do that, right? But Marxism's back with a bang. These conditions that we're getting into are forcing people to look all over for real solutions to the problem, right? There's a reason the Midwestern Marx Institute is getting big now. That came into existence now. Not 15 years ago. I was here 15 years ago. Believe me, there was nothing. The reason this stuff is all happening now. because conditions produce us, produce possibility, produce necessity. Necessity is something I'm always talking about. There are all sorts of real Marxists coming around, and we're rediscovering this, right? And we're looking at, well, what was wrong in the past? Why did the communists of the last few periods of our history fail, right? Why did they not have a revolution during the Depression, right? It's a good question. And I don't want to get into a whole theory thing and the American trajectory, but what I mean to say is we're disparate, we're disjointed, we're not yet organized because we're taking our first sort of stumbling steps last year and this year into existence. American Marxism, the theory, American Marxism, you know, the Chinese, they have Mao Zedong thought and Deng Xiaoping, all that, right? The Soviets had Bolshevism. The Cubans, they have Marti thought and the new socialist man and all this theory that's particular to them. The Koreans, they have the Juche idea. American Marxism has never been a thing before. So why is it starting to become a thing now? Why are we getting innovative and creative Marxists here now? It's because of that necessity, right? Before this period in history, we couldn't theorize reproletarianization because there was no reproletariat yet. We couldn't understand the purity fetish because it was only just taking shape, and we were only able to understand it once it did, right? That's the Marxist view of things. There's a reason the utopians were utopian, right? They were limited by their epoch, as Engels teaches us in Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific. So what I'm saying is stick around because you ain't seen nothing yet. Let's see. Not really. No, let's address this. This is a common thing. Like, yes, you could call it socialistic. It's a program that genuinely serves society, right? And all of society. And that's why it's such a beloved program. But when we speak of socialism in a general sense, this term comes, Robert Owen, speaking of utopians, Robert Owen, one of the top utopian socialists in history, right? One of the big three. He was here in the US, actually. That's where he took his utopian communes. And he first uses it in English. And in fact, he uses it at our Congress in front of Thomas Jefferson, whom he was corresponding with and trying to convince of utopian socialism. And the way he uses it is not some particular this or that, some policies or other policies, but instead is a general thing, right? A society that rather than the liberal republic that serves the often conflicting and extractive, especially for Owen, this was important, extractive and immoral pursuits of a ruling class, the socialism would serve society overall. So Marx, Engels, everybody that begins scientific socialism is using it in this sense, right? Good question, though. Thank you, Rhonda. Let's keep going. I'm going to go through y'all's statements and comments and stuff. Then we're going to wrap up because we've been at this for over an hour and a half now. And I think we've gotten some good stuff out of this debate, honestly. On your marks, make the people rich. Simple as. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Let's see here. I think we're good. Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. Female Rage asks, would you say Carlos's book is a good introduction to communism? No. Not for an introduction. In fact, I'm writing one that's nearing finish that I've been kind of on and off working on, called The Basics of Marxism, named after the class that we do. So if you're looking for a good intro, check that out when it comes out. We also are going to be doing a new Basics of Marxism class very soon. I'm actually a week behind in organizing it and getting dates. So within a few days, expect signups for those. In the meantime, check out, it's hard without, check out the class. Trust me. All right. Red Maze says, hi, you reversed my comment. He had a separate set of electors to overturn elect. I'm under no illusion that Trump is an ally. He declared Cuba state sponsor. Sarah, yeah. Thank you so much for the $20. Red Maze. I didn't mean to, I'm sorry, I must have misinterpreted you or read you wrong. I wasn't trying to say you were like, Mr. Trump or anything like that. But thank you so much. We really appreciate the super chats. Anything, everything you give goes right into our budget so that we can keep giving you this kind of awesome content. I'm going to take this video off now. Well, there it is. And it's just me now. So yeah, I apologize. I must have just misread you. Let's keep scrolling down. We're going to keep scrolling down. Everybody loves Glenn Greenwald. I think I'm going to wrap up here and we'll say one thing about him. But we got, it looks like one more. I'm sorry I'm so behind this chat, y'all. You guys are, there's too many of you. Thank you, Stephanie, for the $5. Great work from Midwestern Marks. Thanks, Noah and Company. You are so welcome. And thank you, honestly. I know I get corny about this stuff all the time, but you have no idea how much we appreciate that thing, that kind of thing. It's what gets us running, right? Without this kind of stuff, I wouldn't have this microphone since mine was falling apart. Nothing, none of that. We have an amazing production team now that we're going to be bringing you even better stuff going into the future. So yeah, we're going to wrap up, guys. I think probably safe to say Glenn Greenwald stole the show, right? He wins. Like, if we're looking at who actually wins this debate, Glenn Greenwald surpasses everybody. He was on point. He stuck to the facts. He didn't mess around. And then you saw Alex Jones sort of doing the debate version of grabbing Destiny by the hair and going like this, and then whipping him against the wall. Then you saw that Darren Beattie, who he would fade in and out with some okay stuff, but boring. Then the Krasselsteens, the liberal brother guys, they were just kind of being pedantic and silly. So yeah, hands down, I think the January 6th was not an insurrection. Side wins because it's absurd to call it an insurrection. Doesn't mean it's good. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not an insurrection. And if you think it is, you really should get out more. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you all for everything. And we'll go out the same way we always do. See you next time.
Cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power.